North Korea made a Godzilla movie, and trust me when I say this, it's crazier than Britney Spears and Charlie Sheen on a Las Vegas binge. North Korea went Hollywood by kidnapping it. Imagine this. It's 1978 and Shin Sang-ok is one of South Korea's hottest directors, and Cho Yun-hee was one of their trendiest stars. They were so big, they caught the eye of the supreme leader's son, Kim Jong-il. So, Kim devised a plan. Bring them to Hong Kong. Kim lured the actress first. Cho Yun-hee was brought into Hong Kong under the guise of a movie project where she was kidnapped. Shin Sang-ok, worried about the actress, went to Hong Kong to look for her himself. Which, by the way, this sounds like a terrible movie plot. A director without any investigative skills, no prior history with manhunts, decides to go to a foreign land to look for an actress heroically, somehow finding her? Because what investigation doesn't need a foreign director with no experience or knowledge of the land they're in? And, well, he was captured. This is how Liam Neeson's Taken would go if you're only a badass in courage only. Now, while in North Korea, both had stints in luxury prisons. And I say prisons loosely because they had general freedom that the North Korean citizens had and more. They had access, they had food, they had access to materialism not available to the average North Korean. But at the cost of liberty. They had constant surveillance, they weren't allowed to leave, and they had to do what Kim asked them of. Unfortunately, they did do some time in jail as a result of resisting and trying to escape multiple times. Now, they were kept separate until March 7th, 1983, where they were reunited at a party where there Kim Jong-il announced they will be working on movie projects for North Korea to hopefully raise North Korea's prestige around the world. To prevent an international crisis, Kim Jong-il held a press conference where the actor and the director spoke, saying they were in North Korea by choice. Thankfully for the actor and the director, they actually filmed the director in secret, explaining how they were prisoners. And for the next year, they did exactly what they were instructed to do. They made a series of movies, culminating in their Godzilla-like movie Pulgasari in 1985. And as a giant movie fan myself, it piqued my interest, therefore I eventually ended up seeing the movie, and I'll give you my thoughts at the end of this video. Pulgasari was made because Kim Jong-il was a big fan of the return of Godzilla, also known as Godzilla 1985. Kim's goal? Make a kaiju film with the people versus oppression themes that could boost the regime's image internationally. Shin, the director, quietly hired 15 Toho veterans. Most people don't know this. Godzilla's famous suit actor, Satsuma, actually played Pulgasari in the movie. SFX boss Teruyoshi Nakano and other Toho techs worked on the film unaccredited. Now you may ask, why would these prestigious Toho filmmakers work for North Korea? And by the way, Toho is the company that originally made the first Godzilla movies and owned the rights to Godzilla. Did they sell out their morals for a few coins? No. They were told it was being filmed in China and were only told the truth upon arrival. Godzilla's suit actor Satsuma actually thought they were working on a Hollywood production. Now, it may seem unusual to think this, why would Hollywood be in China or any side of that peninsula? But at this point, Hollywood worked with Toho, a Japanese company, on many movies, so this was not an unusual arrangement. At this point in history, Hollywood had a significant presence in this side of the hemisphere. When the Toho crew arrived, their passports were confiscated, and they were kept under tight control at a villa tied to Kim Jong-il. The rooms were heavily monitored, and this is where the Japanese beer story originated. For those that don't know it, while hanging out in one of the rooms, one of the men mentioned how he missed Japanese beer. Well, the next day, Japanese beer appeared in the fridge. This informed the guests that the rooms were bugged and that their requests were being monitored in real time. Choi and Shin earned limited travel privileges after completing several movies and were sent to Europe to scout financing for a Genghis Khan project. This was when they made their big escape. In March 1986, they arranged a meeting with an investor, but it wasn't a real meeting. Upon meeting the potential investor, they went in the room and asked the North Korean guards to wait outside. Well, the director and the actor fled, went into a taxi cab, and literally had a chase scene through traffic. They rushed to a US embassy, literally ran inside, and requested asylum. After their escape, Shin's name was scrubbed from Pulgasari, and all his films were banned domestically. Needless to say, if you want to make a movie, try not to get captured by North Korea. There are much easier ways to do it. Now, how was the movie Pulgasari? It follows a tiny metal-eating kaiju that was created originally as a clay and metal figurine by a blacksmith. They lived in an oppressed village where the father was wrongfully imprisoned. Her blood accidentally dripped onto the figure during a sewing accident. Her blood accidentally dripping onto the figure while sewing brought it to life. The figurine, now a living creature, survives and grows by eating metal. Initially, he helps the oppressed farmers overthrow the corrupt king. However, once victorious, he becomes a threat in and of itself. He developed a hunger that could never be satisfied and kept consuming and consuming. Believe it or not, an analogy for capitalism. The creature is only stopped when Amy, the daughter of the blacksmith, sacrifices herself, which ends the creature's life. So how is the movie? Well, when comparing it to a Hollywood production in the year 1985 when it was released, it's subpar. It pales in comparison in most ways. Visually, storytelling, set designs, you name it. And when you compare it to the movie that it was emulated after, The Return of Godzilla, it still fails to measure up. But that's not to say it was a bad movie. In fact, there are actually a few scenes that are somewhat decent. Visually, it lines up more with a Showa-era Godzilla film from the 60s rather than a modern movie of the mid-1980s. With that said, F North Korea, Godzilla is awesome, and let me know what you think in the comments.